distinguished ladies and gentlemen. The very first thing we want to do is to play back the outcome of your conversations yesterday. But while they are setting up, there is an item that we were supposed to have done on day one that we didn't do. So I would call Dr. Olu. It's about enhancing collaboration among states.
Good morning, everyone. The session I'm going to handle, we looked at the program for the first day. It talks about the brainstorming session on the need for collaboration. And it's interesting that in the past 2 days, most of our conversations have centered around the need to ensure collaboration at the federal level, at the MDA's level, cascaded towards the state and the LGAs. So initially, there is a framework in which I wanted to share with us to facilitate the brainstorming session. So what we intend to achieve is to listen to you in terms of suggestions or ideas on how we can have effective collaboration. For instance, you might recall during the first day, there were issues around that what AfCFTA is trying to achieve is to make Nigeria quite competitive in terms of export market. Then the question really says, what is the role for the Nigerian Export Promotion Council? What is the role for the Nigeria Investment Promotion Council as well? Commission. So we see all of this being played out even yesterday when there were conversations around the role of NAFDAC and at the same time the role of Standard Organization of Nigeria, and then the lady from Delta mentioned about the other private sector agency that is responsible to do what is expected of NAFDAC, but without the authority of approval. Then the question really is this: how do we now ensure that in a scenario when we have overlap of functions, how best can we collaborate with sister agencies or MDAs to achieve the same goal and objective? In a collaboration framework, there are 3 C's that are actually very important. Is communication, coordination, and also being able to carry the other parties along. So one of the things that you also try to do really is what we call a stakeholder analysis. So you identify within your states who are the other stakeholders that are necessary for you to achieve your objective for your ministry or for the initiative. So because this session is supposed to be collaborative, right? So I'm going to throw it open, right? And if you want to share with us in terms of give an example of an experience you've had in which it's been very difficult for you to achieve the objective for your ministry, and what exactly did you do to engage with the other stakeholders within the different department or agency. The reason why we are saying this really is that our key takeaways from here is that we need to be proactive in collaborating with other ministry. Okay, so this is the framework that was going to guide the conversation. So like I was saying to you, there are 3 C's: the communication, coordination, and cooperation. So what this means really is that there has to be that conscious awareness that, for instance, yesterday we heard from the Nigeria Customs Service that the need for one single window such that it makes operation seamless. And we want to ensure that this silo mentality within public service, we need to eliminate it, because if we all understand that we are working towards the same goal, so once everybody knows that this is where we are going, this is our objective, there is no need to hide information. So that means we have to communicate, we have to share information with other MDAs to align with what we are trying to achieve. In addition, yeah. So I'm going to throw it open right now. I want volunteers, really. I don't want to pick on anybody, but I can see my constituency in the Northeast. So I'll be biased in getting my constituency, somebody within my constituency to share experience and give us suggestions on ideas on how we can enhance collaboration among states, between federal agencies and the state agency. So the floor is open. So we start with someone from the Northeast and we'll go through the other zones.
Okay. Good morning all. I am actually from Northwest, because the Northwest is, I think the instrument silent. Actually, before we can delve further into main collaboration, I think I would like to suggest that anytime a message is being sent to states, the first thing is to ensure that that message reaches the state quite on time. That communication problem used to create a lot of issues between states and federal. Sometimes when the messages are being conveyed, to some extent, some of the programs are running over. And before you even get to know what is happening, virtually the program is related. So we usually encounter a lot of problems when receiving messages from federal agencies or MDAs that are relating communication or cooperation between state and federal. This is the first thing we should try to rectify. And secondly, like when this issues of AfCFTA, when the first letter was received at the state, actually we received the letter lately, and luckily enough, the program was funded. And my advice is, when composing the technical working group, it's like the states are supposed to be carried along to give, because most of the departments or agencies written, some states don't even have such kind of arrangement. So when states are being carried along in that respect, it will be easier to indicate before going further and trying to supplicate things. It will go to consume most of our time, which is very key. So I think it's good we look into that area so that we try to rectify everything at the early stage. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Should we agree that we need to have after-focused person for each state, and we have the contact details to... Okay, we just get all the points. Okay, so let's keep on. Yes.
Thank you. In addition to that, I'm from the state from Southwest. I think we should have a common platform where information can be shared quickly, and then whatever that is advantageous to one state or whatever information they have, they can share with other states. Just like data was just sharing something with me this morning, and which is very, very fantastic from what they are doing in data state. So, and it's beneficial to all states, not just data states. If we have a common platform, this thing is coming newly, not necessarily new, but other states, a lot of states are keen to this, and we should have a common platform. It is very, very necessary. Thank you very much.
Okay. The lady from Delta State.
Good morning, Shimita Balu, Delta State. So, after being here for the third day and having our breakout session, this is what we are thinking of doing. First of all, we're very happy that we were put into geopolitical zones, because the whole of the South-South states, we have three major products in common: oil palm, cassava, and aquaculture, because we have the ocean bothering us. So there is this commission that was set up, BRACE Commission. BRACE means Bayelsa, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, Edo, and Delta. And it is private sector driven and supported by all the governors. They don't really have a common goal for now. So what we're thinking is we can make them re-energize themselves using AfCFTA as a platform. BRACE Commission also has the capacity to engage properly with NDDC. And so NDDC has had their issues of misappropriation of funds. We can still look at that, that's in our zone, to see how we can get them to harness. So in Delta State, we've already arrived at the three products we want to look at, which is fashion and textile, arts and craft, food and beverage. So under these three products, we have agreed we're not doing commodity. That is going to be value addition. So we can look at what derivatives under food and beverage we can get from cassava, from palm, and as well as from the sea, as a means to kickstart. That is one part of what I want to say. The second part of what I want to say is what we are now doing in Delta. So in Delta, we've already set up our state structure for AfCFTA. We have a chairman, we have a secretariat, and all the MDAs that are connected with trade, investment, exports, they are all under one body. We have now drilled down to local government, and we have created the same thing at the local government, and they're going to have their first showing. Most of the whole essence of AfCFTA is not just to get us improving our GDPs and our foreign reserves. We also want to impact communities. So we're looking at the council chairman and all the councillors and charging them that for your economic plan, most of them have no economic plan, so we borrow them an economic plan. Can we build up production for these products? And can you identify the cooperatives and the SMEs that are within your territory? Now, most of them have a small amount of money they are willing to put towards women and youth development. So we're saying do women and youth development into commodity upgrade, into training and skills acquisition that is targeted towards fashion and textile, arts and craft, food and beverage, leaving the commodity aside since that has not been beneficial to us. So we're now at the fourth strata. So AfCFTA started from Africa, moved to Nigeria, then states, and now currently we're at local government level to get this up and make sure all communities are aware that there is a need and the importance of intra-African trade and how even Algon can benefit. Because when we get our local governments, we can go to their bigger bodies and have that discussion. Thank you.
That's a very good template. I hope Delta State will share that template with the other states. The only thing I just want to add really is this. Is there a structure for you to get to the ward level, like you rightly mentioned, the councillors, because in some states, local government is quite big. So how do you actually now take it to the grassroots?
Okay, we have already gone past that again. We invited all the councillors with their council chairman and vice chairman per local government, explained the program to them, asked how many of them had an economic plan. Some of them said yes, some of them said no, but really they just put by names that they better understand. Some call it youth development, some call it women development, some call it agricultural development, whatever name. So when you tell us what your economy plan is, we will now tell you how that builds into AfCFTA. And then we tell them a lot of entrepreneurs worry about market, that AfCFTA is the market. So they now understand that when we do access to finance from BOI, CBN or government or however they are doing it, that these products, these clothes, these shoes, these belts, this furniture, there is a market for it. And we try to let them understand that they can now start to post and say, we, local government and council, we found market for you. I said, say it, whatever we brought here is your own. Add it as one of the things you have given them. And they liked that. And they started to say, with the cloud market in Africa, you can go to Ghana, you can go to Lesotho. So yes, it's just about, as you say, communication, coordination, and cooperation.
Thank you very much. You've made my job very easy.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ben Masadi from Gombe State, which is part of Northeastern political region. We are faced with the most difficult situation when it comes to economic development, and that is the issue of insecurity, insurgency. Everybody knows about it. But we leverage on the fact that when you are in a difficult position, necessity, as they said, is the mother or father, or both father and mother, of getting a solution to your problems. And in the Northeast political region, we leverage on one very important element for cooperation, that is homogeneity. We are a very homogeneous political region. And for that reason, we are able to overcome the problem of language barrier. So this makes it easy for us not only to communicate among ourselves, but also present a common position in our aspiration to get out of our problems. Number two, we looked at the whole Northeastern state as a vehicle for transforming the lives of our people and also leveraging on our neighborhood with Chad, Niger, Cameroon, and even Central Africa. So our leaders, in other words, our state governors, they understood this concept very well, and they have decided all commonly owned or joint assets of the Northeastern state. They decided by themselves to see how best can they make them come together for the benefit of the state. Let me take one example. At a situation where security and insurgency makes it difficult for people to move from one place to another, we decided to solve the problem of intra-Northeast connectivity. Where connectivity is going to increase our opportunities for cooperation and coordination. And the leaders came up with an idea of having a regional airline. This regional airline, the main focus is for it to take advantage of what air transportation can do as a vehicle, as an engine for growth. Because we believe the fastest means of reaching out not only to the state capital, but even to the other commercial centers and political centers of Nigeria, namely Abuja, Port Harcourt, Kano, Lagos, is for us to have an effective means of air transportation. And for that reason, already a company is established that is owned by all the states, which is private sector driven. Theirs is to facilitate the taking off of the airline, and it is going to be operational for the benefit of bringing the region accessibility to the other parts of the country and beyond. And in fact, the mission or the vision and the medium-term objective is for this airline to serve as a vehicle for economic and political integration along West African countries. Because that is why it is a regional airline, but focusing and leveraging on what obtains. What are the challenges? Of course, the challenges are obvious. Aviation sector calls for a lot of capital injection, and it has gotten an enabling environment because all the states in Northeast have airports. The infrastructure is there, but the vehicle for getting the maximum economic value for the infrastructure is not there. Which are these vehicles? The airlines, the ground handlers, the catering companies, the ground support equipment, and whatever. So for that obvious reasons, the government is trying to support the taking over of the airline and encourage other private investors within the region and outside the region. This will give us a comparative advantage of linking Nigeria and other neighboring countries to facilitate affairs and activities. Secondly and lastly, we have realized the potentials of our border towns and the export promotion zones. Just as like the Excellency talked about export-free zone, we have for this state government has taken a giant stride towards revamping the border facilities.
so that it is easier to import and export in a manner whereby our product will easily reach the end user. So for that reason, our greatest challenge is funds. Funds, as I was telling one of my colleagues, is very difficult to come by, especially to private investors. And where you align with the government to get these funds from DOI, NEXIM, and the rest, it takes time. So it is my candid opinion that to facilitate export and to get the most advantage for connectivity and the utilization of the facilities like the airport, the issue of cargo operation is necessary. Because you can export when you have the facilities on the ground. You have the airport, you don't have the airliner. You have the airliner, you don't have the aircraft. So these are the elements that are very, very challenging to us. Then finally, and importantly, Mr. Chairman, it may interest people to know that tourism in the northeastern state, that for the insurgency, yet it is a source of a very, very good source of funds or source of RTI. We have the Acquaint Bauchi. We have around Yobe, we have a place whereby seasonally there are birds coming from Europe to the place. And we have the Gazagramo, and we have the Bambula, whatever. So all these things are potentials that can only be harnessed through cooperation, coordination, and communicating among and within the country for people who are interested. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the submission. I'll just add this to what you've said. When you're looking at aviation, it's always good for you to look at it from an integrated logistics, because you want to ensure that right at the local government, for those farmers or the livestock, you can have a cold chain infrastructure that can readily be linked to the cargo operations that you mentioned. So you are looking at aviation not just from a passenger's point of view, but the movement of your goods to both domestic and export market.
My name is Adamu from Kano, Northwest. When we talk about cooperation, actually we have cooperative societies. If you recall, most of the Northwest we deal in agricultural products. So for exportation and to make the collaboration, we can use the cooperative societies, because most of the products are being brought from the local government, and all these local government, they register at cooperative societies so that they can make their goods in a larger quantity so that it can be brought to the market. But the challenges within this terrain is the infrastructures, lack of infrastructures, then storage facilities. Most of the goods, more especially perishable goods. So we need advanced technology for the storage, for the preservation of these perishable goods, so that they can be of good standard to be exported to other countries. And if you can recall, Kano, we have the largest grain market. It's an international grain market. But the problem, the people dealing there, they need a sensitization. That is the way how they can make their product sellable outside. Thank you.
Now, based on what you mentioned, right, can you highlight in terms of the what Kano has as a strategic advantage, some of these challenges that you have mentioned? How can Kano State initiate collaboration with the neighboring states, for instance, to solve some of these challenges, leveraging on economic of scale? And also, how can the state engage with private sector, maybe a public-private partnership? Because what we're also trying to achieve really is that nobody can do it alone. You know, we also need to understand that individually there is little we can do, but collectively we can do much more. So some of these challenges that you've talked about, we need to also figure out what kind of solutions can we prefer through collaboration.
For example, with regard to the collaboration, the state government usually collaborate with the Export Promotion Council. And also in terms of funding, the BOA and the NEXIM sometimes come to an aid for the farmers. They assist. When you talk about private and that is PPP, there was a collaboration with some companies to bring energy, that is light. So all this collaboration with the private sector and the public sector, I know the state government is trying its effort in some aspects, but it's not all.
Okay. Do we have more? Okay.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Rabi Abubakar. I'm from Katsina State. When you, in terms of collaboration with the federal government agencies, third parties, Katsina is strategically located as a border state, like Yobe, Borno, Zamfara, Sokoto. But we have an economic corridor which has been servicing the trend of cross-border trading. And when we want to go into cross-border trading, we are equally looking for the cooperation and collaboration of most of the regulatory agencies by the federal government, offered by the federal government. Because trade is so diverse that you cannot do trade without the cooperation of the Nigerian Customs Service. When we are in trade, because men need trade, they are looking for the cooperation of the Nigerian Immigration Service. They are looking for the SOM. They are looking for NAFTA. All these are federal government agencies. And there was never a time any synergy was created between the state authorities and the federal government. And we have two strategic entry corridors for trade. So that is why I think the state government of Katsina came to receive this African Continental Free Trade Agreement with all the desired attention. Because we are looking at it maybe as ECOWAS did not serve our purpose. Bilateral agreements between Nigeria and Niger did not serve our purpose. Let us look at this because this is encompassing the entire continent. So we are thinking there may be a deliberate effort to make collaborations easier. And we quickly advise the state government to open through your office in Abuja. They have their office in Katsina for national trade negotiation. It has been set up about 2 months ago. What we are looking is a complete collaboration between the office in charge of this African Continental Trade Agreement with our own office in Katsina, so that we can facilitate the take-up, the full take-up, because we are looking for the opportunity to take up. We are already engaged with all the protocols in terms of trade, boosting trade and facilitated trade, because Katsina is a link with all the land-linked countries, because we are not a transit state. Our people participate and engage in this trade between all the ECOWAS member countries. You can take your goods from Katsina, it will go to Niger, from Niger it goes to Mali, Burkina Faso, Algeria, and including Libya. So we are really desirous of this collaboration that directly with some of the regulatory agencies offered by the federal government of Nigeria.
So let me ask now. Yeah. So what are your suggestions in terms of how do we now ensure, like for instance, Ministry of Trade and Investment at the federal level is engaging proactively with the State Ministry of Industry and Trade and Investment. And like Riley mentioned, in some states, they don't have that kind of structure. Depending on the kind of structure that they have, how can we effectively promote the communication, the cooperation, and the collaboration that we talk about So these are some of the suggestions that we want to use in terms of what we need to do differently going forward.
Okay. You see, the only way to increase collaboration is to increase collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Trade, Industry and Investment and other regulating agencies. Because the Federal Ministry of Trade cannot continuously take up all these issues because there are intersections in planning with the rest of this country. When we talk of NAC-A, we talk of SOM, we talk of Nigerian Customs Service, we talk of immigration. They are independent way running under the laws. This is supposed to be harmonized. There is need for harmonization so that we can facilitate trade.
Yeah. We still have more time. Now let me just also jumpstart our ideas in terms of what we're trying to get at. We all know about the Orosanye area. Any other suggestions or we'll round up? We'll take one more comment and that's it.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ekolon Shop, the Representative, the Permanent Secretary of Finance and Social Finance. And in the case of our current state, we have been able to go beyond this collaboration as a challenge. Presently, we have the Parent State Investment Promotion Agency. This is a one-stop shop. What we tend to do in that particular agency is to bring all the stakeholders together with the one planning, the one office, and including the federal agencies that has a key role to play in this after. We believe that we are able to bring everybody under the same roof. It will be easier for us to do business and whatever the challenges we have in the course of trying to achieve this after goals, we'll be able to do it within limited time. The processing will be resolved in that particular aspect. If anybody have an issue particular to address, anybody come to that agency and they go, we will be able to solve that problem without going to other applications. People need to forget about the risk of doing business. So in this stage, we are trying to work on that as best as we can. So in the long run, we are going to house all the other agencies so that we come under this one, including the state agencies that have particular responsibility of that export promotion activities. Thank you, sir.
We need to go back and ensure that we communicate, we coordinate, and we cooperate across the FGs, the states, and up to the local government level. Thank you.
Good morning. So we're going to do a recap from each of the breakout sessions that happened yesterday from each of the geopolitical zones. So we'll first start off with Southeast. I believe we have Dr. Ifedora Amobi around to give that presentation. A quick 5-minute recap from Southeast.
Yeah, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the third day of this workshop. My name is Ifedora Amobi from the Southeast Zone, and yesterday we deliberated on some of the things that we think the Southeast can do or has been doing to ensure that we are open and ready for trade within Africa. We looked at a number of things, and part of what we thought were challenges or problems or issues that we face across the Southeast was first and foremost the attitude towards local products. And one of the things we talked about and decided was that there has to be a change in mindset in terms of our locally produced goods. And I had made this comment earlier on about the tag made in Aba, made in Onisha, as if there is some inferiority, connotation to it. But in terms of quality of these products, these are very, very good, high quality products that are in very, very high demand across the west coast of Africa. And so we have to change the attitude. Funding which cuts across just almost every zone and every state in Nigeria, is essential. States, as much as possible, I'm from Anambra State, we have been able to a small extent, provide some funding towards our agriculture export program, but we could do with more funding to expand that. Limited access to regulators. Well, I guess probably that could be a function of proximity. Unlike some of the other zones that are closer to the center, zones like this, most of the zones in the south are a bit farther away. So sometimes having access or communicating with federal regulators and other regulatory or collaborative partners is not as easy as it is, most especially the international organizations, etc. Information gap, that isn't really a big issue because with ICT and internet and so on, I mean, everybody can do research from wherever they are, but some of the states within the Southeast mentioned that as an issue. Skill gap, of course, especially towards production and exports, we have issues there. Infrastructure gap, that one is actually a major one. There's no rail in the Southeast, no functional rail in the Southeast. Roads are bad. Access to markets, access to raw materials is usually a big issue for infrastructure as well as logistics. So, these two go hand in hand, warehousing, exactly, and of course, rail and so on. Insecurity, yes. For most of you who have followed, especially my state, Anambra, prior to the elections, where it was a major issue. As far as the state economy was concerned, it was ground to a halt within that month or two, but things are now picking up now. Policy implementation, and for some of the states, not a clear-cut export plan. Imo State in particular said they don't have one. Enugu is working on an export agenda right now, incorporating the 9th Mile Free Trade Zone and the Arca International Airport. Ebonyi State is also working on something now. They want to go big in export tourism, medical tourism, and incorporating that into their own airport that they're now developing. Anambra has, like I said, we already have an established agricultural export program, and we have been exporting agricultural products out of the state. We just have to expand on that and incorporate that into our own already established cargo airport. We are working with AfCFTA Bank to set up the next quality control center for the Southeast in Anambra. So on the state by state, I've already mentioned some of these ones. This is Ebonyi. They mentioned the attitude. Anambra has some of these same programs. So it's just that same list, just broken down on a state by state basis. These are the things Enugu mentioned: security, roads, especially. Imo, like I said, they have no export plan, but it's something that they want to, start looking into. Cross-cutting initiatives, leveraging the diaspora remittances, and this is big. Diaspora remittances in Nigeria totals about $25 billion every year, of which we have actually broken it down, and we figured that about 10% of that are from people from Anambra State, in my own state. And you can imagine what 10% of 25 billion in Naira could generate. So those are big areas that all the states are going to be looking at in the Southeast. Leveraging tax discounts, yes, we're going to take full advantage of that. And then we want to localize AfCFTA, bring the national plan down to the zone, localize it, own it, and then be able to run with it. And for those of us who have existing plans and strategies, we're going to revisit and try and incorporate what we have into the national agenda in order to make progress. Okay, same summary by saying, I know there isn't enough time, but the next states just pretty much break these ones down on a state-by-state basis. Ebonyi, Enugu, Anambra, Imo. Yeah. Unfortunately, we didn't have Abia here in this session, so we couldn't get a lot of that from Abia State. That should be it. Thank you very much.
Us to move on to South-South. If we could please have Chief Mrs. Shimete Bello to deliver the presentation.
We're made up of Edo, Delta, Bayelsa, Rivers, Cross River, and Akwa Ibom. Okay, next slide. So we looked at areas of common interest. We are a sea, ocean bunch of states, and we have ports. We have ports in Cross River, Rivers, and Delta that we are able to use, of which our Warri Port, One Port, and Port Harcourt Port is really good, but underutilized. They are mainly used for oil and gas. We would like to use it for other things, and we're suggesting that since our port is not a logistics nightmare, people in the agric field from across the country can consider using our ports. We have everything to work, we just need to get it moving. We also talked about the ground logistics. Now that we're ready to do a lot in terms of aggregation of products and exports, we would also be turning our oil and gas money in the name of diversifying our economy. We're going to be giving the North a run for its money in trailer business. So we're coming. Then let's go to the next slide. We talked about improved infrastructure, our roads and all of that, for us to be able to get from farm to market or to factory. Then we looked at what affects us within our states. We need to increase production because we didn't want to go through exporting to other countries and then we have a shortfall domestically, because that's another problem that we will now have to come and sit down again as a team to solve, how we no longer have food. So whilst we want to export, we need to truly improve our commodity capacity to make sure we're taking care of both the domestic market and the foreign market. We talked about regional collaboration. We have the BRACE Commission, which I spoke about a little earlier. BRACE is Bayelsa, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, Edo, and Delta. And this commission is supported by the 6 governors. It has been there for quite a while, but for some time it became a bit moribund. So we're thinking that we can give them a new focus, which will be AfCFTA. They should use that as their pilot because it deals with economy, it deals with social, community development, and all of these can be found within the AfCFTA framework. So that will be what we'll be all taking back to our governors, that let's have BRACE Commission work to see how we can get our zone working for AfCFTA. We spoke about the importance of sensitization because the people need to know what AfCFTA is about, how it affects their bottom line, how it affects their ability to improve their livelihoods. And I think in almost all ramification, for what AfCFTA is trying to do, we would have no challenges. In terms of education, we looked at what a lot of our states are already doing as agreed by all the states. We have a vibrant skill acquisition system in each of the states where we're teaching youths especially and then women different skills. So when we identify the areas we want to get into the market for, we will make that a priority when we're doing our skills acquisition trainings across the 6 states. Then in terms of government intervention, we looked at the government helping with ease of doing businesses. Edo has done a lot in terms of tax breaks and incentives. That has already begun. And they said that is already yielding fruits they can see. Then we looked at the requirements for success under AfCFTA. the export services should be prioritized. What are some of these export services? To help in branding, packaging, labeling, certification, proper documentation, access to finance, and access to market, of which AfCFTA has dealt with access to market. So in Delta, we've already started drawing down from the Nexin 50 billion fund. We've been able to take beyond the 1 billion given to us because some of the states have not started to take, so that was our advantage. Then, introduction to technology. Edo State has a vibrant plan for digitalization. So the speaker that spoke about the fiber optics, Edo will be taking that on. They have almost finished laying their underground, and I believe that by the time all the governors meet, they will decide whether they want to join in fiber optics. But the whole 6 states agree that we need to look at ICT and data as one of the skills acquisition. We'll be doing the blockchain and all of that. Akwa Ibom also spoke about that. Then we looked at the value chain. I only have 5 minutes, so I'm trying to go as fast as I can. Okay, I mean for the entire discussion. So 1 minute left. So we agreed that we're going to make sure AfCFTA is private sector driven in our zone, yet it will get a lot of boost from government, so that government go, government come, AfCFTA continues. Next slide, if there is any. Is that the end of the slide? So we agreed on, there's something we didn't say, which I'd said before. We have agreed at the zone on 3 major products, which is palm oil, aquaculture, and cassava. We looked at the 3 areas that Delta State had started to look at, which is arts and crafts, called fashion and textile, and food and beverage. So in terms of the cassava, palm oil and aquaculture, we'll be looking at it as a priority area for food. As much as Delta chose arts and crafts, I know that Edo will give anybody a run for money for arts and crafts, as well as Cross River. Then for the fashion and textile, Cross River, they are not present, but we know what is happening in our zone. They have this huge factory where plenty of people can sit down and sew mass production. So we will be selling that to them, that they can be one of the hubs. While in Delta, we have a Unido factory that we invested close to $3 million. We have all the equipment. We make shoes, bags, bulletproof vests. So we also want to look at a collaboration with Kano and Sokoto to get some of the leather works like what Abia has done, and then we can have those collaborations. My time is up, so let me not be a nuisance. Thank you very much.
I would like to now invite Northeast.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We have had today 3 good days of interaction among ourselves, and I think all is about how we can strategize for the smooth takeoff of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement areas. We have also met at our various breakout sessions in the Northeast, and we have looked at our potentials, and we are trying to see how we can harness what we have in order to align with the objective of the AfCFTA. And what we did was to look at the positions that each of the states has as of today, and to also look at areas of common collaboration in order to move the region entirely forward. Our own is actually different from any other region because we are just coming out from a very serious crisis that has affected the fabrics and economic foundation of the entire Northeast. It has actually made the place quite unattractive for people. I'm sure if this event is organized to take place in Maiduguri or Yobe, I believe many people may be afraid of taking the risk of going there, even though the situation actually has improved greatly, and we are therefore facing a lot of effort of rebuilding and recovery. So under Borno State, it's not only Borno State that came out of economic insurgency, but Borno State is also badly affected, and it is now strategizing by working on a document that is called the 25 Years Development Plan and a 10 Years Strategic Plan in order to guide the states to maybe put a very strong foundation for economic recovery and transformation. And Borno State, we all know, shares international borders with countries of Niger, Chad, and Cameroon, and also have a very strong commercial ties with Sudan and Central Africa, which is also an opportunity that can be leveraged upon by the entire zone. And when you look at Gombe, Gombe have a budget of 155 billion for the year 2022, but certainly this is not the kind of budget that we can be talking about in the year 2022. We know that the entire budget of the Northeast State, 6 of them put together, is just about 1 trillion, while Lagos State alone is budgeting 1.39 trillion. So we now have a very big challenge because we have more vast opportunities for fast economic recovery than most of the big states in Nigeria. And therefore we feel we can put our resources together to change the narrative. And Gombe in particular is keeping an eye on the $1.2 billion AfCFTA target and wishes to make its mark through a kind of value addition industrialization in areas of processing, packaging, farming, and even export of rice and other agri products. Bauchi is also one of the states in the Northeast, which is also trying to leverage on the $1.2 billion AfCFTA target, and the state intends to do that through ensuring value addition agriculture because of its vast youth potentials. And Bauchi State has already commenced a training program for over 2,000 youths in crop production and agricultural value chain. And Bauchi State has a renowned tourist attraction, especially the popular Yankari Game Reserve, and it will also want to leverage on hospitality industry, museum, and shopping in order to attract investors to the state. Bauchi State, along with others, have also developed investment incentives that will be strong enough to attract both foreign and local investors to the state. When you come to Yobe, looking at the budget side is also a very small one, 164 billion. We feel that with the AfCFTA, we will be talking about a very substantial budget that can drive the economy of this state. And for now, the state has already set up a technical working group for AfCFTA, and it is going to start liaising strongly with the AfCFTA Secretariat in order to move the state forward. And I'm sure immediately after this session, when we go back, we are going to organize the Train the Trainers workshop in order to maybe decipher down the lessons learned from this 3 days workshop to the other members of the technical working group. And then we are going to do a grand takeoff of the AfCFTA in Yobe State. And the state, in order to address the problem of financing, has already signed an MOU with Nexim Bank in order to finance projects that will bring economic value to the state. A project like direct export of sesame seed, as well as cement production and production of gypsum plaster board for import substitution. We have considered the common areas of collaboration in the entire Northeast and feel that we will go down to organize what we call a sub-regional AfCFTA working group in such a way that Borno and Yobe that have more common facilities together, Taraba and Adamawa, Bauchi and Gombe, we will first of all exhaust our common potentials before coming down to actually move the entire region forward. We are aware of the problems of logistics and infrastructure and funding, but we believe the continued engagement under this platform will bring a lasting solution to the entire problem. Thank you very much.
If we could please have the Honourable Commissioner for Budget and Economic Planning, Ekiti State, Olufemi Ajayi, come to the stage.
Thank you very much. We want to appreciate the Ministry of Finance and Trade and Investment for the joint collaboration on this program. Yesterday, at the Southwest Technical Breakout, we had Ekiti State, Lagos, Ogun, Oyo, and Osun. You will believe that, you will agree with me that the Southwest, they are moving fast, very, very fast. But some states have moved fast more than the other. So when we go back, what we need to do is to first of all look at our policy and legal framework. Some states had, some don't. So we're going to review our legal framework and the policy framework to support export promotion in the Southwest. And the Dawn Commission, they are going to play a very vital role on this. So that's number one. Then number two is information and data sharing, which information about market, data about our SMEs across the region. Each state have their own peculiarities, but this is what is common at the regional level. So information, data sharing, they are very, very critical. A lot of people don't know how to approach the export market, and then we will be training them at the regional level and even at the state level. The process of export, each state, Ekiti State has a one-stop shop where you can approach and get everything that you want. When we are talking about SON, you are talking about NAFDAC, you are talking about everything. Ekiti State has a one-stop shop, which is also peculiar with other states across the Southwest, even though there are still some issues which have been mentioned here. But like I did mention earlier this morning, that we need a platform where information can be shared across the states. Then add to that is we want to, under the legal framework and the policy framework, we want to review our industrial policy. We should review our industrial policy. Some states don't have industrial policy. So these are some of the things that we did discuss that we can take away from here. Then we talk about standard. We talk about standard because we are going into the international market, even within Africa, but the standard, we must know what Cameroon wants. We must know what is the standard of export for each product. So this information should be made available across the region. And like I told you, the Dawn Commission is going to play a very critical role around this, because if you don't know what your customer wants, you may not likely get to them. Your products, when they get to the market, they may not likely buy it. It is only when you know what they want, that is when you know what you are exporting. Around that is the collaboration between the states and the federal government. This one is very critical because, like we did mention here, there are a lot of issues that we need to address around that. Talking about even the standardization we talk about, talking about information, talking about our SON, the NAFDAC, and everything, which is, I don't want to belabor you with that because we already know what is happening around that. So there is a serious need for collaboration between the federal government and the subnational, because we don't want the state to be going back and forth about getting certification, about getting approval to move product from one state to another country. So these are some of the issues that we did discuss yesterday, and I think this is beneficial to all of us. Thank you very much.
Northwest, do we have the representative from Northwest around now?
I'm Ibrahim Tukur Jikamshi. I'm from Katsina State. I'm the Director General Katsina State Investment Promotion Agency. Dr. Mustafa is supposed to do the presentation. Unfortunately, he's not around, so I take it upon myself to cover the Northwest. In our group, we looked at certain issues that cut across the Northwest geopolitical zone. And of course, like other people have said, we are homogeneous, we have the same ecosystem, we have the same economy, the same attitude and other things. Key issues and challenges for the successful implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area in Nigeria, we have break them down on state-by-state basis, and we started with Kaduna. And most of the issues cut across almost similar. Like other speakers have said, in Kaduna we have similar issues of policy or product protection, and so also in other states, meaning that we need to protect our homemade grown goods and services. And we have looked at it in terms of intellectual property rights, especially the intellectual property right in Nigeria is not being protected quite well. And we also looked at the need for collaboration between the federal government and state, like other states. And then within ourselves also, we looked at the need for certification process within the regulatory process, such as SON, NAFDAC, and other things like other previous speakers have said. For Kano, the bigger issue is for storage challenges. They have a very good production for tomato. Kaduna is number one in terms of tomato production. Kano is number two. Katsina is number three in terms of tomato production. So certainly we are looking for infrastructure, storage system, and other things that will preserve and add value to our comparative advantage. We also in Kano looked at infrastructure as a challenge at the point of production, and then logistic challenges to transport of products. Other issues that we have looked in Kano State is also technology for standardization, advanced technology that are amenable and friendly, that will really bring in new production process. In Kano, we have over 3,600 moribund industries. And of course, if we are to restate them, we require new technology, new equipment, new machineries, and that will really bring the large aggregation market in Kano to use. Because what is happening now around the region, we export most of our crops at just raw materials, not being processed, no value addition, nothing like that. So also in Jigawa, the production challenge in respect of agricultural products, rice, hibiscus. Jigawa is number one in terms of hibiscus production. Katsina is number two in terms of hibiscus production, and we all know that they have economic value at the international market. So certainly we looked at that. Tomato, sesame, challenges in terms of value addition. Also, consolidation or standardization and infrastructure are issues within the trade arrangement in Jigawa State. There are a number of moribund factories in Jigawa that they need new technology as well. We have started discussing on how to improve energy in the entire northern Nigeria. And currently, the Northern Governors Forum have already set up a committee that is looking at the energy within the entire northern states. So also it affects the Northwest as entirely. In Kazana, we have comparative advantage for soybeans, sesame, hibiscus, and cotton. In fact, cotton, we are number one in Nigeria in terms of cotton production. And then we are looking at how we will explore the advantage associated with that. We have already started some work, but the NAFDAC, the quarantine, and those things. And even right now, a lot of trade that goes international are done informally. And most of those that are participating in the trade are not literate. So certainly they need to formalize, and we need to bring them into the system. And these are issues too. Like I've said earlier too, specifically in Kazana, we have a 10 mega power windmill in Lambalini, and it's a challenge. It has been there for over 20 years, and it is owned by the federal government. Certainly, this is an issue that needs to be addressed by Federal Ministry of Power and Industry. We are establishing in Kazana State economic processing zones about 3. The NEBSA is establishing one in Fontua that will look at textile and garment park, so that we can explore the complete value chain of the cotton. And then as well, the state government is establishing another one along the border. We call it Kazana State Green Special Economic Zone. So generally, our challenges are political willpower, because most of the things that happens in this country revolves around governance. And once those that are in power have the will get it. And that's got to do with policy formulation, implementation, and other things like standardization and sensitization. Of course, not only to sensitize people to imbibe the policies, but also for Nigerians to patronize Nigerian goods. We have a large market, we patronize ourselves. Of course, some other speakers have said. With this piece, we rest our case as part Northwest Zone. Thank you very much.
I'd like to invite North Central, Engineer Farouk Omar.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, I'm here to present for North Central, comprising of 6 states and the FCT. The states are Niger, Nasarawa, Plateau, FCT, Benue, Kwara. Unfortunately, Kogi is not present. Part of what was discussed yesterday, it has to do with the challenges that will mitigate against the AfCFTA strategies. This is a summary from all the states. Number one is the lack of adequate and reliable data. What we have realized across the zone is that data is not readily available for commodities that are available for export, and in most cases the data available may not be up to date or reliable. Then of course we have the infrastructural deposit. Some of us may be aware that North Central constitute almost 30% of Nigeria. The Niger State alone constitute 10% of Nigeria, with the highest number of trunk A roads in the country. So that poses a challenge: poor roads, processing capacity, and heavy smuggling. Now, what we mean by processing capacity, the ability of our entrepreneurs to process their goods and services that will be readily available for export, and in most cases the conditional processing centers or storage facilities are not readily on ground. Then of course, heavy smuggling of our goods. We equally realize that in some of the states, particularly Niger, there's heavy smuggling on our share kennels. Almost on a daily basis, about 10 trucks of share kennels or share nuts leaves the state through illegal routes and found itself in Ghana. Then insufficient fund, access to finance, access to funding for MSMEs and donor partner budget. We equally have lack of access to available funding, e.g. restricted and restrictive condition for borrowing. What we observe practically from one of our representatives yesterday, I wish the lady from BOI was here, the state made available $1 billion while BOI made available $1 billion. The gentleman happens to be a farmer, and for the past 3 years he has not been able to access a kobo from BOI, despite the fact that the state allocated the sum of 1 billion naira to match it with BOI 1 billion naira. And of course he's a farmer, so there are very, very cogent issues regards that. Then of course there's the lack of interest in farmer from the younger generation. We have realized that in some states, particularly Kwara, made that an observation. The younger generation are not actually taking up farming, and some of these products are what is being processed for export. The lack of institutional framework to coordinate the activities of ACTA, no coordinating among MDAs. Now, one of the states, I think it is Benue State. No, sorry, Benue, right? I think it is Benue State. They do not have an MDA charged with the responsibility of taking inventory of commodities and then preparing them for export. Luckily for us in Nigeria, we have the Niger State Commodity and Export Promotion Agency. So Benue State needs to get its acts right. Then lack of adequate capacity for MSMEs. What we have observed is that there's a knowledge gap or inadequate knowledge on what to produce and how to process them and prepare them for export or even intra-trade among states. There's lack of awareness on major products within the states across North Central and the product needed for the African market. Then of course there's inadequate data specific to solid mineral for investors. Now, North Central is a heaven for solid minerals. We know that Nasarawa is a heaven for solid minerals. There are solid minerals in Kogi as well, and there are other solid minerals that can be found in Niger as well. But to process them, to be able to export them to the African market is also a challenge due to the unavailability of data. Then of course there's the low level of enlightenment on best practices to farmers. I think in this area sensitization and advocacy it's required. Then of course restricted access to market as a result of heterogeneity of culture. Well, unlike the Northeast and the Northwest, where almost everybody or 95% of those understand the simple language and can communicate. The North Central itself is a mini Nigeria where you find all sorts of people. If I happen to be in, let's say, Benue, I cannot speak Tiv. If somebody from Benue happens to be in Niger, he may not be able to understand the Hausa language, so language may be a kind of barrier, even though we're in the same country. The lack of regulatory framework to drive product activity. We have equally lack of access to off-takers. Even if the finished products are readily available, you will realize that the off-takers that will off-take your product and then move it forward are absent. Then lack of formalization of farmers, small businesses and miners, high level of insecurity. We all know this around Benue axis, there's the farmer and header clash. This is an old story. Prohibition of grazing, then lack of business appetite, particularly for those of us that are in the civil service. Can we have the next slide, please? This is a summary of the state. Oh, is my time up? Just 2 minutes. Let me go to the next slide and then in the next 2 minutes I'm done. No, sorry. Go back. Okay, summary of the goals and mission. To be the leading producer and exporter of shea quality and shea butter in Africa, to be able to harness the state resources and commodities and prepare them for export, to build capacities of our MSMEs to process commodities to meet African market, I will skip some points: to increase the agricultural production, to improve the value chain, to include processing, to increase job opportunities and empower citizens with the right skills and wealth creation. Thank you very much.